The FBI's long-awaited decision on Hillary Clinton is finally in. The agency has cleared the presumptive Democratic nominee of criminal wrongdoing by using a private email server as Secretary of State, and it recommends the Justice Department do the same.
Although there is evidence of potential violations of the statutes regarding the handling of classified information, our judgment is that no reasonable prosecutor would bring such a case.
Indeed. Director James Comey doesn't think Clinton should be charged, but he did admonish her for being extremely careless.
Although we did not find clear evidence that Secretary Clinton or her colleagues intended to violate laws governing the handling of classified information, there is evidence that they were extremely careless in their handling of very sensitive, highly classified information. None of these emails should have been on any kind of unclassified system.
Did the Bureau feel any pressure to clear Clinton of wrongdoing? Comey says no.
What I can assure the American people is that this investigation was done honestly, competently, and independently. No outside influence of any kind was brought to bear.
So the FBI essentially determined Clinton broke the law, but she didn't mean to. Now, as you can imagine, the Clinton camp is over the moon, so's Juan, putting out this statement. We are pleased that the career officials handling this case have determined that no further action by the department is appropriate, as the secretary has long said it was a mistake to use her personal email, and she would not do it again. We are glad that this matter is now resolved. Joining us, someone who also is glad the matter is resolved, Juan Williams.
Well, yeah, sure. I'm glad it's real. I said it. I never thought that she was going to be indicted. If that's your point.
Yeah, you were saying from the beginning that you didn't feel that the evidence rose to this level.
No, and the thing is, if you look at the previous cases, you know, everybody cites David Petraeus, or they talk about other cases where there was, I think Greg Gutfeld once said this to me. You don't necessarily need intent. You said to me, because it's the fact that you did or behaved in such a way. And I said, I think you do need some degree of intent. And what you heard from FBI Director Comey today was, you know, there was no vast quantity of information, no willful mishandling of information, certainly no disloyalty to the United States, and after the fact, no obstruction of justice by Clinton. So what we have is carelessness, but not crime.
Yeah, but you know, you bring up the point of intent. Actually, you don't need intent.
Yeah.
Because you know, nobody who plows into a liquor store wanted to do that. You know, intent doesn't mean anything. And if you allow for intent, then that's the excuse. You could just keep yourself out of the loop and have everybody else do your dirty work and always claim that you don't know. The interesting thing in that tape is watching Comey. He was sweating like a drug mule at customs. I mean, he did not like what he was having to say. He was angry. He was upset, and he knows that they just set a precedence for mishandling information. Now anyone can do it, because you can't prosecute the little guy if you're not prosecuting the head guy.
He did end his statement with, "Oh, you better not do it going forward, though."
Yeah.
Like, so he spent he spent the first 10 minutes of that thing outlining what they did and what they found. And it was long. It was elaborate. She was extremely careless, or they were extremely careless. I'm quoting. They should have known. These are all things that he spent time saying. And so I'm going, wow, I agreed with Juan. I never thought she was going to be indicted from the very beginning.
But for different reasons.
But I thought, in the first 10 minutes of this thing, I thought, you know what, maybe they found something, and maybe they're going to recommend an indictment. This is really going to be interesting. 10 minutes, and then he comes with the very shortest part. He said, we're going to do 3 things: what we did, what we found, and what we recommend. And the recommendation was very short and concise. No reasonable prosecutor would bring such a case. And then some stupid forward-looking thing, but don't try it at home, because you will be. Boy, are the Clintons above the law? And if you ever thought so, now you can absolutely agree with that. And the fix was in. Honestly, this was terrible. The timing, the timeline on this was insane. Bill meets Loretta Lynch on the tarmac 8 days ago. Over the weekend, the FBI spends 3 hours with Hillary Clinton. Over the weekend, President Obama conveniently decides he's going to start his campaigning with Hillary Clinton in North Carolina on Tuesday, right after the holiday weekend. And what happens? The recommendation of no indictment comes down, and an hour later, they're in Charlotte, North Carolina together. Can you imagine if Comey said, yes, we recommend an indictment, the most powerful man on the planet standing next to someone who should be indicted, They knew, they all knew, and if Obama knows, that's a big problem.
Yeah, all right. Melissa, you had some good comments on this earlier today.
I mean, when he started the press conference, he went through and he listed all the items, and they were actually so much worse than what anyone had reported.
Right.
I mean, that's what was amazing to me. He's like, let me be clear, we're not talking about a server. We're talking about many servers that were destroyed along the way. We had many different administrators, not even this one that we've all been talking about. I mean, he's like just one of a dozen. There are all these people all over the place. They said all of the information, and then he went through and he went piece by piece and showed you everywhere that she lied. He said, used only one device for convenience. That's what she said. And he said, nope, actually lots of devices, lots of servers. She said she never sent or received anything marked or classified. Yes, absolutely she did. Here are the ones that were marked at the time that she both sent and received. He said, I want to, you know, the stuff that's up classified later, that's totally separate, so we left that out. So she had said that. That was also a lie. And then he said any reasonable person should have known. And then at the end, he concluded that, well, I understand that intent is not necessary under the law. He said it's not necessary, but it's easier to make the case if it's clear. So in the future, we're going to look for emails laying next to people that say my intent here was to murder Bob.
Right.
Yeah, that's
because
the problem.
shooting him with a gun didn't show that.
No, but the one that everybody cites is David Petraeus, right, Melissa?
I never have. But
Okay, well, other people do. I hear it all the time, and people say, well, how can you treat Petraeus this way? And I think he pled guilty to a misdemeanor, and you not charge Hillary Clinton with anything. But remember, Petraeus literally, he had to remove and retain information, classified information, and then hand it over to his lover. Hillary Clinton never engaged in any such behavior.
Do we know that?
What do you mean?
Didn't we just find out that
also
she had
had
burn bags where she was burning?
Hillary,
Hillary did. And also, what about
Of her
this? What about, you know what
schedule.
drives
That's
me
what
crazy?
Newman said.
There are 30,000 emails that the FBI says that they didn't get, they couldn't have. She sent to her lawyers. They all agreed they weren't relevant to the case, and they burned them. They got rid of them.
They deleted them and then
unrecoverable.
cleaned their devices in a way that they would not be recoverable.
The lawyers did.
Wow, the standard now appears to be clear and convincing evidence. Forget gross negligence. But throughout this investigation, Clinton's been defiant that she did not send or receive classified information. Remember that? But Comey says, actually, that wasn't true.
From the group of 30,000 emails returned to the State Department in 2014, 110 emails in 52 email chains have been determined by the owning agency to contain classified information at the time they were sent or received. 8 of those chains contained information that was top secret at the time they were sent. 36 of those chains contained secret information at the time, and 8 contained confidential information at the time. That's the lowest level of classification. Separate from those, about 2,000 additional emails were up-classified to make them confidential. Those emails had not been classified at the time that they were sent or received.
Okay, Greg.
Well, you know, when you hear Clinton in chains, the last thing you think it'd be would be Hillary. But you have an obligation to protect your information because the information is basically, it's the borders of your country. This is private stuff that if it gets into the wrong hands, and as you find out, she had been traveling in areas where, you know, people could hack her material. This is extreme carelessness, which sounds like a movie starring Steve Gutenberg.
Which is the same standard as gross negligence. You just said it right there.
The one question that anybody can ask her during the debate is, would you be okay if people on your staff had a private server too? Because that's the issue. They can't prosecute after if they can't do anything about her. They can't do anything about anybody in the future.
But she said that she admits that she regrets having done this and would not do it again. And I think the standard now is pretty clear. I don't think it opens the door to any miscreant who comes on and says, well, what about Hillary Clinton? She did it. She did it.
Why not, though?
Because everybody is very clear.
So clear her.
There's a different standard.
No, because if you did, if you went after her, let me just say, you would also have to go over Condi Rice, Colin Powell, everybody.
They didn't have servers.
They didn't maintain their own personal servers in contradiction with policy. I mean, that is the problem.
It was the policy.
And all the people that she was sending and receiving emails knew that that was not on the proper server.
If the FBI says says to Eric Bolling or Kimberly Guilfoyle or Juan Williams or anyone at the table, so we want all the information surrounding this. We want your work phone and your private phone. And you decide to turn over your private phone, and you keep your work phone like this and you throw it away. This is essentially what she did.
No, that's over. You overdrew it.
Wait.
You are so right on so much. I get your point.
Hold on, let me finish. The 30,000 emails that Comey says that they combed through and took the other side and trailed are the ones that she turned over.
No,
there are still 30,000.
There's 55,000 pages of emails that she turned over.
No, Bolling is right. Even Rudy Giuliani said the same thing you're saying. That's destruction of evidence. Okay, and you'd be entitled to an instruction in front of the jury, consciousness of guilt, to say it shows that the person knows what they were doing.
Let me just tell you what the FBI said. I mean, the FBI said was people, when they change different devices and servers, some of it you get deleted, some of it gets lost. It's not that there was an intent to obstruct justice.
That's why you're not allowed to have your. By the way, that's why you're not allowed to have your personal.
Okay, but that's that's different than what Eric was. The way Eric presented. If I was on the jury, I would have said guilty. Send her to the gallows.
Why does James Comey get to decide whether she's guilty?
He's the FBI director.
No, he doesn't get to decide that.
He has people who are investigating, and he now refers it to the justice.
He can make a recommendation, but he went out of his way to say any reasonable prosecutor, no reasonable prosecutor would put this case forward. That's far greater than just making a recommendation. We recommend, further investigation, prosecution of this case. He's saying, I'm finder of fact. You cannot bring this case forward.
He didn't say that.
That's what it says. No reasonable prosecutor. If she did that, she'd be unreasonable. And, by the way, Loretta Lynch is going to stay.
No, I'm saying,
in that position if Hillary Clinton
I was trying to respond to your earlier point. Loretta Lynch, the Justice Department makes the call.
Yeah, I'm aware of that.
He made it perfectly clean for her, and then he ran from the room as fast as he possibly could and didn't take any questions when he always had in the past.
How much politics surrounds this, Melissa?
He made his answer and bolted.
There's another thing that he brought up when he said that there was not going to be prosecution, but there's something about security sanctions. There's a possibility that you could have a president who doesn't have clearance. I mean, is that possible? It's like that's like a doctor who can't prescribe drugs. This is something that, I mean, this is a huge deal. It's also, the other problem that we haven't talked about is that it was an open secret, that everybody knew about the server. It's just like Bill's affairs. Her emails and his females were an open secret to everybody. And you know what they should have done? They should have just said, look, it's easy to ruin your life. Young kids and old people have problems with technology. Maybe her password was, her birthday and the name of her grandchild. Everybody understands that. Just say, look, this is new to me. That would have been funny.
You know why the open secret? You made a joke, and it's funny, but you know why it's not funny? Because both of those occurrences, her emails and his females that everyone knew about, including foreign governments, people who may want to hold that against them, could use those things against the United States
Bill
of America.
would love you to hold that against him.
Because it compromises their position. And again, Rudy Giuliani said today, and Comey used to work for him, be an assistant under him. He said, let me tell you something, she would never pass background security clearance to work for the government at this point. I mean, it's that egregious what happened. But she wants to be commander-in-chief and negotiate with heads of state and fix the ISIS problem, but she'll just be commander-in-chief of name only, right? Because she's basically broken all the rules there and wouldn't pass.
I thought you guys today might say, you know what, time to move on, Benghazi, but it's not.
You know what? It's memories for us. It's memories for us. It reminds us of the 1990s. I keep waiting for Friends to come back. This is like Friends coming back, but it's better than ever because she's just as corrupt as she was in the 90s.
And by the way, they just covered the bases at the last second this weekend and met her at her house. No defense attorney worth their salt would let her sit down with the FBI if they really thought that she was going to get indicted or subject to prosecution. And then she went to Hamilton and did selfies on Broadway right after that happened. Oh,